Today I'm going to be covering how to make the face opening of this hat here. And you might notice that the pattern is actually in an alpaca yarn, and this is made out of a fine Angora, but it's exactly the same pattern. I just had this lovely yarn, and so I knit the hat out of the Angora. But the yarn's the same thickness, so the pattern works up exactly the same. And I've started a new hat right here, and I've knit in the round right up until this point here. So I'm going to use my little measuring tape here, and you'll see that I should be at exactly 3 inches, and I am exactly at 3 inches. I have 2 inches of the knit 2 purl 2 rib, and then I have 1 inch of just stockinette stitch. And I'm kind of finishing my last row right here. I've been knitting in the round this whole time ever since I cast on. I'm actually going to continue on this needle here. So I just knit all the way to my stitch marker. And I'm a continental style knitter, but you can knit this pattern in any knitting fashion that you like. The English style works just fine. So now I'm going to remove the stitch marker. I don't need that anymore because I'm going to break from knitting in the round. And I have these 2 stitches here that I'm just going to go ahead and move them onto, they haven't been worked, I'm just going to move them on out of the way onto that knitting needle. So I've reached the point where my stitch marker was, and I just removed my marker. The 2 stitches, I slipped them onto the next needle because this is the beginning of the round, and this is the point that concerns me the most, and this is where I'm going to turn my work, and I'm going to purl all the way around back to this point. Every single stitch gets purled. Alright, so I'm going to purl a whole round, and this is what's going to create the face opening of the hat. Actually, the entire section that is the face opening of the hat will actually be worked back and forth in rows. It will not be worked in the round. That's what creates that opening. Alright, bear with me as I purl this row. Now this section, I actually recommend that people change from double pointed needles, that they change over to circular needles like that. And the only reason is it just seems to be a little bit easier than trying to do all of this work here on the double pointed needles. Since you're knitting flat, you're breaking from knitting in the round. I know the pattern suggests to change to circular needles, but it's only because you're knitting in a semicircle and you really can't knit this section on flat needles. But the circular needles eliminate all these connections with the double pointed needles. So I recommend that at this point you just switch over to the circulars, even though you're knitting flat. All right, here we are continuing on with our purl row. Almost there. And that's my last stitch. Okay, now I've made it all the way back to where I turned my work. So again, I was knitting in the round until I reached here. I turned my work and I purled all the way around. Now I'm here. That's how I got to this point. Now it's time to work a few decreases. And my decreases are going to be right here in the first 4 stitches on this end and in the 4 stitches on the end of the row, of the right side row. So I'm going to decrease these 2 stitches, and I'm going to decrease these 2. And let me show you why. The reason is without the decreases, the hat would go straight out like this, and it would reach too far over the forehead of the dog. It would actually cover the eyes. So I have here this line of decreases right here, and the decreases are worked every other row. So on the right side, just as you would in a sweater, you decrease 2 stitches each row. 1 decrease on this side of the face opening and 1 on this side, and you see it's symmetrical. And here are my decreases here, and then this part is worked straight, just knitted straight up. All right, so that's what gives the hat that shape, that where the hat kind of comes out near the chin area and really holds the doggy's face very well. All right, let's see. And this is how you work the decreases. I'm gonna knit 2, because this is my right side and this is stockinette stitch, and then you're gonna slip, slip, knit. Now for me it's a little different because I'm a continental knitter, so there's my decrease. And the slant of the stitches should just run right alongside the first 2 stitches, so it creates a really pretty line like that. All right, so that's my first decrease. And then I'm going to knit the entire row until the last 4 stitches. Okay, so now I'm reaching the end of my row, and I'm going to leave the last 4 stitches unworked and just finish off that row. Okay, I have 4 stitches left before I reach the gap. And now I'm going to work my knit 2 together and knit the last 2 stitches. And there you have it. Those are my 2 decreases. I have a decrease there and a decrease right there. And then I'm going to turn my work, purl a row, then I'm going to knit a row working those 2 decreases, and then I'm going to purl a row, and I'm going to repeat that a series of times, 10 times actually, well, a total of 11 times, until I have 70 stitches remaining. Then I'm going to stop working the decreases and just work in stockinette stitch, knitting a row and then purling a row until my work measures 6.5 inches from the cast on edge. That's 6.5 inches. After that point, I'm going to remove my circular needle and go back to my double pointed needles like these. And then I'm going to rejoin the work in the round. So what I'm going to do is, after I've knit all my decreases and then knit in stockinette, and I've reached 6.5 inches, right? I've reached this point. Then I replace my marker right here at the top of the face opening and continue knitting in the round. Now these decreases here in the top of the hat are basically the normal decreases that are worked like in every other hat, only they're spaced out a little bit, whereas in a normal hat you would work a decrease row and then a purl row, a decrease row and a purl row, closing the top of the hat very quickly. This one has a slow decrease, so it'll be a decrease row and then knit a few rows and then another decrease row and then knit a few more rows, and that gives it that conical shape. And that's how you knit this hat and create the face opening of this hat.